Waterstone, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to the Waterstone Election 2020 podcast. I'm your host, editor of the Daily Blog, Martyn Bradbury, and with me in the studio is libertarian political commentator and stuff columnist, Damien Grant. Well, we are now 11 days until the 2020 election, and it's been another week of political shenanigans. Labour have coasted all week, while National had Judith praying amid more internal leaks and party division. ACT continues to defy political scrutiny despite a $1 billion hole in their budget. The Greens look grateful to have held on by their fingernails above the 5% threshold, and Chloe is making Central Auckland a tight three-way race. And New Zealand First still going nowhere. Damien, your favourite moments in the last week in campaigning?
I think it's the internal leak from Denise Lee. I mean, wow. Okay, say what you will about Simon Bridges, but he spent a couple of days in advance on every policy before he put them out there, and he controlled the narrative. The allegation is Judith Collins just making stuff up on the fly. Now, to be fair, the Prime Minister was making stuff up on the fly in Christchurch about hate speech laws. Seemed to have got away with that for some reason, perhaps because there's better internal party discipline. But she sent an email to all MPs. If you send an email to all National Party MPs...
You're starting it, aren't you? You're going...
You may as well just email a copy straight to the editor of the Sunday Star Times, because you know it's going to get out there.
Right.
And then, although the allegation is that it was a male MP who leaked it to the media.
I wonder what male MP might have a chip on their shoulder.
Which one? There's more than one. Well, because Judith Collins made a crack about, I understand in campaigning can be quite stressful, but I'm not suffering from any stress, says Judith Collins. That is a very nasty dig at her former leader of 53 days.
Just, ooh.
Nasty.
Just doesn't stop, does she?
Nasty, Mrs. Collins. Nasty. And why does she call Jacinda Ardern Miss Ardern?
Mrs. Ardern.
No, it's Miss. She says M-I-S, which is technically correct. I mean, I assume the Prime Minister doesn't care.
I think she's doing anything she can to take away from the Jacinda-ness, isn't she?
I know, but it just...
Everyone calls it Jacinda.
I know, it just seems... I know it's technically correct, but there is just an element of you're a little girl, zip it, sweetie type aspect, and I don't like it. Call her the Prime Minister, call her Jacinda Ardern. Nobody else calls her Miss Ardern.
Did you like the spitting image? Wasn't it brilliant?
The spitting image.
Socialist Jacinda Ardern. That was great. My highlight this week, Judith going to prayer. That was just because what's going on there is National are being hit left, right, and crazy, right? So on the left, they've had all of these older women decamp and go to Labour. On the right, ACT is just slicing into their numbers. And then, of course, on the God Squad front, there is a real division and breakdown of vote going to three different Christian parties this election. And this is National. Three.
New Conservative.
The New Conservatives.
You're talking about Tamaki.
Yes. And and One God, which is like...
I haven't even heard of them, so we don't need to worry about
so many... They want to ban libraries and clitorises.
I think this is crazy, right? Because I read Judith Collins' book when I did a review for it a couple of months back.
Very gaudy?
And no.
No?
No.
Where's God?
I went through it again, just in case I missed it.
Yep.
I went through looking for references to Jesus.
And?
There was nothing.
Zero.
So I didn't read the entire thing again this afternoon. I just went through having a look. If there was more than a paragraph on God in that book, I would be stunned.
That's interesting, because in the book she says how one of the people she looks up to is Rommel, which is interesting that Rommel would be she'd have more reference to Rommel than God. Isn't that interesting? I think it's interesting. Let's look, ladies and gentlemen, at the parties this week. Labour, TV3 50%, TVNZ 47%. All Labour had to do this week is look coherent and coast Auckland out of level 2 into level 1. Mission accomplished?
Yeah, they've done that.
They've done that.
Although, let's face it, we've been on level 1 for months.
Yeah,
I mean, nobody cares. It's all over.
But they are controlling the message, and they're doing a very good campaign, aren't they?
They are campaigning well.
They are and what I found interesting...
Well, actually, it's not so much they're campaigning well, they're not screwing up.
Right.
I think, and the only other party that's not screwing up at the moment is ACT. And to be fair, the Greens have had a couple of good weeks.
Yes,
and
yes.
That's all they really need.
That's right. Because
when this Green School came out, I thought one of the things that would tip them up was if there was massive uncontrolled dissension in the ranks.
Yes.
And so whatever's happened internally, they have been able to bottle that hard. And so whatever dissent there was in the ranks has been squelched.
Yes.
The campaign for Auckland Central, I think, is a godsend for the Greens because Swarbrick is such a credible and articulate campaigner.
Right.
We're actually seeing more of Chloe Swarbrick than we are of James Shaw and Marama Davidson.
Interesting activity around the Māori electorates. Messaging this week by Labour. There is a fear that the Māori Party have actually, their candidates have picked up some momentum going into this election. There are now 3 electorates that they are concerned they might lose.
What's the third
to
one?
The Wairiki, Debbie's one, and Tamaki Makaurau.
So you're saying that is it Tamati Coffee?
Yes, Wairiki.
He could go down?
It's close. It's way closer than anyone thought because Māori Party have a
he
strong.
squeaked out a tight win.
That's right. So,
and that's interesting because the Maori electorate tend to be quite socially conservative.
yes.
And Tamati Coffee, it doesn't necessarily fit neatly into that.
Right.
And you don't. I mean, I suspect the number of people on the electorate who would vote based on that is quite small.
Yes.
But it only needs to be 2 or 3%.
That's right.
And the thing that I think will cost him is that I think nobody really cares if you do your stuff and you do your stuff, right? No, nobody's interested. But Mr. Coffey is quite front and centre with his.
Yes,
and
it's also felt that he's not a face around the electorate. He doesn't spend a lot of time in the electorate. He spends a lot of time in Wellington. So there's a fear within the electorate that he hasn't done enough to actually be around there.
Well, there's not much there, is there?
Well, yeah, but within that culture, you have to turn up to everything. It's part of the kaupapa. But I thought it was interesting their messaging this week that they were forcing the two tick message through the Māori electorates way more than they have in the past. What we might see with the Māori Party, if they pick up a couple of seats by sheer hard work on election night, they might create an overhang.
But see, this is this is dumb tactics by Labour. Because, I mean, we've met Tamahiri a couple of times on the radio program and one time socially. He's not going to go with National.
No.
He is, he would never say so publicly, but it's very obvious that he's going to tilt left.
Yeah.
So why, now for this election, who cares? But for 2023, why would they spike a potential coalition partner? It's a really odd strategy.
National, TV3 29%, TVNZ 33%. Damien, so after the budget blunder, we now have leaks from inside National accusing Judith of making up policy in the fly and of bullying after all the internal meltdowns. Surely National have tired out from self-mutilating themselves. It's just like they don't have any more energy to stab themselves repeatedly.
No, I mean, as we saw with
here they are doing it again.
Yeah, it's
a house divided will always fall.
It's like the House of the Roses, isn't it? They're just going to keep going. Bunnies will be boiled.
I don't think that they are showing the unified connection with the electorate that is going to trust them with a mandate, right? I mean, how many times do they need to cock it up this year? Between the ex-president, a National MP, then there was another one sending dick pics, then you had Muller, then you had Late Night Merv. I mean, it's all a bit sleazy, isn't it?
And then if you have a look, the Labour Party's campaign, if you take a step back, the Labour Party campaign isn't actually that impressive. But what they are not doing
is screwing up every week.
Not screwing up. They are on message, even if the message is very weak and bland.
Very, very timid policy platform.
When they get hammered, and the Prime Minister gets hammered occasionally for child poverty and other bits and pieces, they're on message, they take the hit, but they're not screwing up. They're not having the sort of problems that National, because clearly their leadership issues remain unresolved. there is a lot of tension and angst.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm in contact with a couple of national MPs. They are not particularly enthused, and they're looking at the leak of support to ACT. And that's a real problem. Because, because if ACT come in with, say, 6, 7 MPs, that is 5, 6 MPs
from national, right?
From national.
Yeah.
And there's some disquiet to say, hey, we gave you Epsom. We might have been happy for you to have Beth Holbrook as well, but cripes almighty, I mean, the whack-a-knack guys like Brett Hudson, it's going to be a bloodbath.
And surely, if they are still leaking this close to the election, the idea that they won't just explode on impact if they did become government surely can't be ruled out. They're all over the place. And a lot of these policies don't seem to have been well thought out.
I disagree. I think you have a look at the Labour Party leading up to the last election. They were a bit of a shambolic mess.
They were.
They hit government, and,
Yes.
and remember that they had 2 warring coalition parties.
They did.
And all right, they weren't particularly competent in the first couple of years, to be fair. But as an organisation, they held their stuff together, because I think power does that. So I think if Judith Collins was to pull out a Hail Mary, and let's face it, it would be a Hail Mary.
It's going to be the Hail Mary of Hail Marys. It would be Lazarus coming back to throw the Hail Mary, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So and so if she actually was able to pull a victory out of the bag,
they'd be on Survive.
and exactly the same way as Jacinda Ardern has
Okay,
enormous
what
authority
yep, okay.
because of her popularity.
What happens if they don't survive? Because
There-
the only way of victory at the moment looks like it's a fluke through MMP. The Greens have to lose enough. Labor just pings down a little. National just goes up a little bit. ACT goes. I mean, it's a mathematical question now rather than like a likelihood, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you look at National Act, they're still, 6, 7 points behind Labor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible. But the other thing National aren't doing is, because I've spoken about this a couple of times.
They're not promoting an idea forward, are they?
Well, no, that's a real problem for them. But you've got National Party vote leaking to ACT
Yes.
and Labor. A percentage of those voters are willing to come back. All National has to do is hold it together. And if they held it together,
Right.
then probably 5, 6% of the Labor Party vote would come back, 3 or 4 of the ACT Party vote would come back on election
And they're in the
day.
40s.
Yeah, but the dysfunction that they are showing is just not those. If you're leaning towards ACT or Labor and you're a
Yep.
former National Party
Yep.
voter, you're looking at the National Party now and you're saying, I just don't think you're ready for government.
If National don't win, they're going to explode, aren't they?
No, I mean, they didn't explode when Bill English got 21%.
Let's talk Greens. TV3, 6.5, TVNZ, 7%. Q&A Auckland Central poll had Helen White on 35, Emma Mello on 30%, and Chloe on 26%. Every time voters see Helen White, they want to vote for someone else. Is she the worst candidate this election? Condescending like you would not believe.
That is an insult to Jamie Lee Ross.
But she's an appalling candidate every time. And it's all about her. And it's all about the audacity of having to explain how great she is to everyone. It's like a real hassle for her.
She's
She's gone from 40. She was in the 40s down to 35%. It's White, Mello, or Chloe, which does kind of sum up the Auckland Central perfectly, doesn't it? Very White, very Mello.
I think look,
She's a good enough candidate to win.
who?
Chloe.
Yes, she is. I think it can be done, but I think that the risk for White
Yes.
is that the left vote is going to. So Chloe is taking votes off White. She's
Yes.
not taking votes
Yes.
off Mello. There's about 5-6% difference
Yes.
between White and Mello. So there is a real chance now that Mello can nip in and nick the seat.
There is.
But I think the real thing is that Swarbrick is really staking a claim on that seat. If she
Yes.
doesn't win it this time, and she'll
take it next time.
She probably won't. She could, she probably won't. But 2023, particularly if Mello takes the seat, then Swarbrick's got a really good claim to say, I am the left-wing candidate in the seat. And then the Labour Party would need to put up a really impressive candidate.
Sure.
And the Labour Party just doesn't have that many really impressive candidates.
They don't. They haven't asked me to run yet. New Zealand First, TV3, 1.9%, TVNZ 1%.
This is Winston.
This is Winston. It's over. It's over. Are you going to make the call? Are you going to write him off?
I wrote him off on the weekend.
You wrote him off on the weekend.
I wrote him off. I said it was very sad that he won't be given the opportunity to give his valedictory speech.
It is, isn't it?
This is the second time he's missed the opportunity to... No, this is the third time.
Yes,
this is
the third time he's missed this opportunity.
He's missed the opportunity to give his valedictory speech. Poor old bloke.
Is there a fear that with Winston gone, that sort of feral, redneck, suspicious of everything, frightened of eclipses, don't believe in science, that part of New Zealand culture will actually go to a much more reactionary right-wing hoodlum? That Winston was able to keep that sort of reactionary part of New Zealand culture in at least a sort of a mild rather than a feral, blood-drenching sort of right.
I disagree. I don't think that Winston got that many votes from hardcore white supremacist racists. I think Winston got his votes from people...
reactionary white males, surely.
No, people who were voting for nihilistic chaos. I think that was Winston's real support base.
I don't know if nihilistic chaos is much of an electorate, is it?
Well, it's at least 1.8%.
According to TV3.
But because he's now the Deputy Prime Minister, it's something that he seems to forget.
He does sometimes.
He's running an incredible campaign to say, "Oh, I'm at the outside. I'm the outsider, and it's a conspiracy, and the SFO are out to give it."
The Deputy Prime Minister.
You're the Deputy Prime Minister, dude.
Can't be much more inside than that.
No. So yeah, I think that's If he wanted to get back, he had to do what he's done in the past and attempt to bring down the government.
ACT TV3 6.5, TVNZ 7%. The budget hole aside, let's just put that aside. ACT's clearing $1 billion. 4 billion was? I can't even remember how. Let's just put that to one side. National suddenly pitching hard right policy like tax incentives for property speculators. That really shows how frightened they are of ACT completely taking that right-wing economic vote from them.
They don't need to compete with ACT on ideology.
They clearly are, though, aren't they?
They just need to stop screwing up. That's it.
Budget hold aside for
There was no budget hole. Leave us alone.
Well, it was a huge one. National suddenly pitching hard right policy like tax incentives for property speculators. That shows how frightened National are of ACT, doesn't it?
Yeah, it probably does. But it's pointless trying to compete with ACT on policy and ideology.
Well, particularly when the ACT want the top tax rate from 30% down to 17%. You can't compete with that, can you?
No, you can't. But but I don't think people are not voting for ACT on policy.
Right. I doubt they've even read that policy.
Well, because you made the comment previously that ACT and the Greens are the only parties at the moment who are value parties.
Right.
And so I think people are reacting to David Seymour and ACT and the values in the same way as I think Greens are starting to pick up some value stuff as well. So if National wanted to take some of those ACT votes back, then they need to kind of compete a little bit on the value stuff, and they need to stop screwing up, and they're not doing either of those. What
was interesting this week, I thought, was when David Seymour impersonated Donald Trump. And he did an impersonation of Donald Trump. He was on Magic Talk, and they were saying, "Are you criticising the president?" And he's like, "Yep." and it was his, "I don't care, I'm going to make fun of some Muppets." And it kind of was a bit John Key-ish, right? That he could have a laugh, have a bit of a bant about it, but he wasn't going to sort of get frightened at all or apologise or anything like that. And his front footing of it, I think people enjoy, don't they? They like that he's a bit of a rogue, that he can actually be quite funny sometimes.
It's the confidence in him,
right?
You compare Seymour now to 3 years ago.
Oh, he's a different politician. He's in his own realm now, eh?
So 3 years ago, it's like, well, remember when he came into office?
Hi.
But that was a funny little video. But the thing is, he never expected to be the party leader.
Sure.
He wanted to be there with Jamie White.
Yes.
And I think David Seymour and Jamie White are good friends and I think remain close. He never wanted to be the party leader. He was about 14, I think, when he became MP for Epsom.
Right.
So all of a sudden, there he is. He's a national figure. He's a leader of a political party. And I don't really think he knew what the heck he was doing. But he's just got better and more confident.
Hasn't he?
And he's grown into the role. And it's just fantastic.
And when
to
he
watch.
ruled out being the Deputy Prime Minister, when he ruled that out this week in terms of a deal between ACT and National, it reminded you he doesn't care about the power. He's not in it for the. He's not in it for the baubles, is he?
He turned down a ministerial warrant so he could push through the
euthanasia thing, right? So he has got real values.
There's
and
stuff
people
he
are
wants
going
to do.
resonate with that, aren't they?
He doesn't want to be an MP when he's 50.
Right.
He's got other stuff he wants to do with his life.
Yep. The cannabis referendum, latest poll out. It's neck and neck. It's going right down to the wire, isn't it?
You know what I love about this referendum on cannabis?
I get angrier and angrier.
It looks like the population are going to vote for end of life. And it looks like cannabis might lose. That means that there is a percentage of the population that believe that the state should allow you to kill yourself,
but not allow you to have a joint. How unbelievable is that?
So there's 5, 10, 15% of the population that are going to vote yes for end of life, but you can't.
Oh no, you can't have a joint. Oh no.
You can't have a joint on the way out.
What does it say about us as the people will say, okay, you can kill yourself if you're in pain, but you can't have any weed to help actually monitor that pain?
Well, Jamie White, referring to him again, had a really interesting idea, and he described New Zealand as being liberal-minded fascists.
Yes.
So
yes.
in his
way,
the way he described it is New Zealanders have no problem with the idea that the state has the power to regulate what drugs you use, what sex you take, all of this sort of stuff. That's fine. Of course, the government can regulate your sexual activity. But we're very open-minded, so we are going to allow prostitution and homosexuality, but the key thing is that we are allowing you to engage in this sexual activity.
It's state-sanctioned.
It's state-sanctioned, yeah. So
anything that's not state-sanctioned, that was outrageous.
Yes. So they have no problem with saying, oh yes, we allow you to do that, as opposed to saying, well, we have no right to stop you smoking marijuana. That doesn't appear to be in the New Zealand psyche. So
do you think that David Seymour should apologise officially to Chloe Swarbrick? And like her back, man, it must be so just almost broken for all of the heavy lifting that she's done on the cannabis debate. Because like ACT have just not been there, but Chloe's doing all the hard lifting, and she's put her back out. Don't you think David Seymour should sort of like buy her a beer or something? Sod's love, kind of let you carry all of that on your own.
Well,
shameful? Shameful.
I must admit, I apologise to Chloe Swarbrick because I did. Because it was my intention 6 months ago to get involved in this cannabis stuff.
And
well, I've got another regulatory fight on.
Well, yeah.
So
but surely
the time, effort, and money that I was going to put into, because I thought it was really important to have some right-wing voices coming out there to give permission to right-wingers to vote for the cannabis. And here, see, and I think Judith Collins and the National Party have missed a huge trick here.
Of course they have.
If they had turned around and says, listen, cannabis, I personally don't do it, says Judith Collins, but it's time to move on. That would have just changed the perception of the way we view National. I don't think they would have lost any votes on that issue whatsoever. It would have given coverage to David Seymour to come out and say, because there was the poll that said something like 67% of ACT voters were voting no on cannabis. So yeah,
shame.
I know it's weird.
Shameful.
So
shameful business there.
I am their leader. I must follow them. So yes, I think it's a tragedy. I think it's outrageous that no National Party MPs are prepared to pick up their gonads and front this issue. Somebody surely must.
Final word, predictions for the week ahead.
Predictions for the week ahead. I hate making predictions for the week ahead. I will predict that Donald Trump will make a full recovery. It will be miraculous. There will be angels singing in the heavens, and with a wave of his wand, the COVID will disappear from the national agenda forever.
2 predictions this week. 1, in the next 48 hours, Donald Trump will get unbelievably sick, like almost everyone has as they catch it. It's a bit sort of feverish, then it lulls down, and then explodes back around to like the day 7 to 10, right? Because he's only in day 5 now.
You have been wishing him ill on Twitter, you absolutely. That is...
And
I'm
so,
gonna
and
call
so,
you
no,
out,
no,
Mr.
and so,
Bradbury, that
and
was
so,
bad
and so,
form.
and so, good. So he's going to come incredibly ill very shortly. And I think the leaders' debate tonight, the Stuff leaders' debate, the Fairfax one,
Yes.
is going to be a glorious clash of cultures between the
moderator,
quasi-Nazi, fascist small business owners who turn up to this event every single election for free tables, and and they'll be drunk like they usually are at each one of these, and there's a huge shouting match, and there'll be a clash between those people, and of course Fairfax's new very woke online reading audience who will be horrified at the hurls of heckling and the drunken attacks by the small business owners on the leaders. I think it's going to be a wonderful car crash this evening. Absolutely. We will see you next week all the way through to the election. Very excited. All right.
Cheers.